Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in part number 12 of this book. I'm having it difficult to even carry this book of Astaghfirullah. I'm just trying. I did try. Maybe I might just break the binding and carry small pages at a time. But let's see how far we can go. This is a book, Islam in the Media, and we're looking at the preface of the book, chapter number 1, the role of the media in perpetuating this myth of Islamophobia and a false, irrational fear of Islam or Muslims. And this irrational fear, FEAR, stands for false evidence appearing real. And when this elite group in the world, there's not one elite group, there are many, many elite groups, and the underlying theme of that elite group, they have power, they've got money, and they want to control humanity. That's all that they want to do, because if they can control you, they will get more money, they will get more power. The more power, they are greedy for power. They have lust for power. Is their drug. Power is their ecstasy. Power is the MMDA. Power is the acid. Power is what they want to say, it is their crystal meth. This is how they get their high. They get their high with more money. More money gives them more power. More power gives them more control. More control means they control the media. When they control the media, they control Bollywood. They control everything. They control Hollywood. And then they put your brain into a cage. Once they put your brain into a cage, that's known as intellectual slavery. It's not in the old days when people used to come to Africa, put them in chains and take them across the Atlantic Ocean. Now it is called digital slavery. They're using digital tactics to put your brain into a cage. They are enslaving humanity, and that is why humanity is plunged into darkness. This is known as the Jahiliyyah, the age of ignorance. And as what the Quran keeps on telling us, the only weapon to fight ignorance is knowledge. We need to read and seek knowledge, and knowledge is the key to destroy the darkness of the world. And that is why Islam came as the light, the Quran al-Mubin, the clear Quran, the glorious Quran, the Al-Furqan, that which distinguishes between right and wrong. The Quran is a book of light. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a person of light, and with that he brought the light into the darkness. He brought light into 14 centuries ago when Arabia and the entire world was in darkness. And from there the light spread from Arabia into the entire world. And now the world is again going through darkness. There are aspects of light everywhere, but the entire world is plunged into darkness because the elite forces, the ones who are obsessed, they're obsessed with power and greed. And the solution, the way to get more power is more money. They want more money. They want more oil. They want more gas reserves. They are digging deep into our oceans and extracting reserves. They don't care about the environmental damage. They don't care about that. They are digging deep into our fossils. They're taking out fossil fuels. They don't care about climate change. They want more money. They want more power, because the more money they can have, they have more power. The more power they can have, they can control your brain. And it was a test run. COVID-19 was a test run for these elite forces. They said, can we control humanity? And they said, let's test it out. And then they spread this virus, and they told human beings, stand still. Everyone stood still. Wear a mask. Everyone wore a mask. 2 meters. Everyone stood 2 meters. You want to die? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. You better take this. You better take this. You better take this. You better take this. In the process, they made trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars. They got more power, more control. So don't be surprised if another strange virus comes, because they are masters of manipulating the genetic code. They're total absolute. They've got scientists who are working all the time. I just want to very quickly, just something occurred to me. There's something called a CRISPR. CRISPR. You know what is CRISPR? Is the ability where scientists have found a way to cut the genetic code. The magnificent, difficult DNA genetic code. They found a technique called CRISPR. CRISPR. They use this at the microscopic level. They will go to the DNA code where there are billions of bases, but they use this microscopic scissor to say, we don't want these genes, we're going to change the genetics. We don't want blue eyes, we want green eyes. They can change the color of your eyes. They can give you a designer nose. They can give you designer private parts. They can do all of that. They can give you a designer hairstyle, all of that in the baby. And then they're doing these experiments on animals. So normally, for example, say if you have and they did experiments on a beagle, a dog, which is called a beagle. Normally a beagle is a little dog like about this, about a foot or 1.5 feet high. Usually about a foot high. But now they've used this CRISPR. CRSPR, to cut the genetic material within the dog. Now, instead of the dog being 1 foot high, the dog is a meter high. And dog got so much muscle, that is the Arnold Schwarzenegger of bulldogs. Now they are creating a new breed of dogs. They'll be like horses and ponies. And this is because of manipulating the genetic code of animals. And humans have advanced to that level, yes, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them permission to do that. But it is only a Khalifatullah, only a vicegerent of Allah, who will use this technology for the benefit of human beings, not for its harm. Whereas at the moment, these elite forces are unfortunately in the hands of the evil people. They are not Khalifatullah. They are not the vicegerents of Allah. And that is why when we see this type of evil prevailing, when the world is plunged in darkness, that is when the Khalifatullah must stand up and differentiate between right and wrong. The duty is to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. And when a Muslim stands up to enjoin the good and forbid the evil, he is a terrorist, stay away from the Quran. You know why? Because the Quran is the truth. And the evil people don't want the truth. And they don't want the truth to be shared about humanity. That is why when there is warfare and when they are doing so much horrendous evil in warfare, they want the human beings to remain quiet. They don't want that news to come out. They want to keep your brain in a cage. That means the more stupid you are, the less questions you ask, that means they got control over you. And these elite forces have made intellectual slaves through many of humanity. But what they are failing to realize, many people are asking questions. People are not stupid. You can fool some of the people some of the time. You cannot fool all the people all of the time. At the end of the day, every tyrant will come falling down, because the promise in the Quran is that good prevails over evil and truth prevails over falsehood. That is the promise of the Quran. And I say, yes, I agree with that 100%. Right. Let's continue with this. So this is on page 15. We read, if we feed our mind with negative or bad thoughts, then this negatively will be reflected in our behavior and in our interaction with other people. In contrast, if we feed our mind with good, wholesome and positive information, then those positive vibrations are projected in our dealings with other people. And that is the Gigo concept, which is garbage in, garbage out, and goodness in, goodness out. In addition, it is important to remember that repeated thoughts form engraved patterns in the brain, and this is the whole basis of neuroplasticity. These patterns form definite highways or pathways in the brain, which form our habits or preferred ways of thinking. Practice makes perfect. So the more you do something, the better it is. The more you hear that Muslims are bad, the more you're scared you will get. Practice makes perfect. These are masters of communication. They know how the media works. They are masters of it, and that is why they know the repetition is important. That's the whole power of adverts. That's why adverts are repeated all the time, because every time you see an advert, it is forming a pathway in your brain. So next time when you go to a shopping mall and you're trying to think of something and you're trying to buy something, you say, yeah, I saw Lux on the TV. Let's buy Lux. Or I saw Protex on the TV. Let's buy Protex. Or I saw Vanilla soap. Let's buy Vanilla, because they are programming our brain. So adverts are a form of programming. That's how advertising works. They are masters. They know how the brain works, right? That means that if you selectively choose negative thoughts, then your view of the world is dismal and bleak. If you selectively choose positive thoughts, then your view of the world becomes hopeful, optimistic, and bright. You have the master control switch in your hands. If you have the ability to choose, the freedom to choose is exercised through your free will. God, most merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has given you a free will. Mankind is the only creature endowed with this gift of free choice, right? The information that gets filtered in our brains is derived from all interactions that we have in our multidimensional environment that we live in, such as the media, the print, radio, television, books that we read, magazines, movies, highway, billboards, internet, and the World Wide Web, right? As well as our interaction with our friends, family, peers, work colleagues, and strangers. This, as we mentioned before, that's what forms your paradigm. Your paradigm is your interaction with other people, in what house you grew up, what were your parents saying, what were your grandparents saying, in social functions at the weekend, what were your uncles and aunts saying. This is how your view of the world is developed, including the view of what you see on television, what messages your president is giving. That is how a paradigm is formed. When the information, and on the other hand, when the information we store in our brain is either false or misleading, then this also affects our entire interaction with other people. And this is the power of the brain, right? And that is what happened in South Africa as well. When the white, this I'm talking about the days of apartheid. And I have a lot of respect for the white people, a lot of respect for the blacks, the Indians, the colors, all our people here. We all suffered. Not only did the black, normally we say the blacks suffer, the blacks are the black, Indian, and colored, and the Malay. Not only did they suffer, but many, the whites also suffered. And I'll tell you how the whites also suffered. Because the whites, remember, they grew up with a paradigm. Their father told them, stay away from the blacks. So the blacks are second class. Everyone is, that the white, in fact, the other way is wrong, that the white is superior, the white are the chosen people. So many of the whites grew up believing that they are chosen people. They were told they are the chosen people at the supper table. They are told they are chosen people in the church. When they go to church, the priest used to open the Bible to say that the white people are chosen, the blacks, the Indians, the color, they're second-class citizens. So they grew up believing that ideology. And they used to on the TV in 1976 when TV came into South Africa. The first thing on the TV, and then the president used to speak about, the president those days. I don't know if it was H.F. Farwood or I don't know who the president, Foster. I can't remember. Then there was P.W. de Klerk and I don't know the various names, right? So then the president was come and they would reinforce this idea that the white is superior to the black, right? So once the white person was getting conditioned, but when apartheid eventually was dismantled and the people saw the reality, many of those whites were then asking themselves the question, how could we have been so stupid? How could we have been so fooled as to think that a system of apartheid, that a skin color makes one person better than another person? How did they brainwash us? How did they brainwash us? You know what? Sadly, what they did, the people of this wonderful land of South Africa, they put their brain into a cage. And that is why we had apartheid. And then we had people like Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, who stood up and said, this is not right. We had people like the Pahad brothers. We had Fatima Mir amongst the Muslims and amongst the Indian communities. We had Reddy and so many others, right? We had so many, they stood up and they said what is happening, apartheid is wrong. And then they stood up for justice. Eventually, apartheid collapsed. But the whole lesson here is someone put their brain into a cage to say, we are going to tell you what to think and how to think. We're going to tell you who to love and who to hate. There was an elite force who wanted power and control. Once again, they had that power and control when they put your brain into the cage. But many Afrikaners, many white people were then asking the question, but this is not right. So when they started thinking for themselves, and where I have a lot of respect for the Afrikaner people, a lot of the Afrikaners and white people in this country, they stood up side by side with the blacks. They stood with the Indians. They stood with the colors. They stood and they said, no, this is not right. Apartheid is not right. And that is why it was a concerted effort, not only in this country, but also overseas. We had so much support internationally to say that we need to stand up for justice. But once again, the elite forces were then crumbled. And today we're seeing it in the Middle East as well. The colonial powers that we invaded the Middle East, I don't want to talk about the history of Palestine. You know it from the Sykes-Picot Agreement and all of that as well. The Balfour Declaration, the shameful Balfour Declaration, all of the other things. You know the history better than I know the history, right? But anywhere where there is an injustice, right? So what is happening in the Middle East at the moment is apartheid. And that is why people in South Africa, we've gone through that apartheid system. And that is why our president and our leaders are saying what has happened in South Africa, we don't want it to happen anywhere else in the world. And our leader, the father of this nation, the Honorable Mr. Nelson Mandela, famously said that our freedom is not complete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. Right? But there are still people, there's still that elite force, the elite force of the world. They're still trying so hard to say, no, these Palestinians are terrible. They are terrorists. They are violent people. Why? They are trying to put people's brains in a cage. But they are not succeeding, because as you open any newspaper, you open any TV channel, and especially if you go on social media, you will see millions of people are marching in the streets. They are marching in Sydney. They are marching in Germany. They are marching in America. They are marching in Canada. They are marching in South Africa. They are marching in Russia. They are marching in Spain. They are marching in Portugal. All over the world, they are marching to say, and people, all types of people, they are saying we need to end this apartheid. We need to end this apartheid. The apartheid in South Africa has ended, but there's one more apartheid left, because now the people, they're asking questions, and now they're searching history. They're reading the Balfour Declaration. They're saying, what happened? What was this Balfour Declaration? This was the land of the Arab people. And Britain came there. Britain caused the problem. So people, once they see the truth, then their brain is released from the cage. And that is the first step towards freedom. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.